It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Good morning, Nashville. What a great day it is. We are broadcasting live from our studios in downtown Nashville. It is Monday, November 18th, 2024. It's that time of day again. It's time for the Morning Rundown, brought to you by The Glock Store, located just a couple miles from the airport here in Nashville, Tennessee. And you can find it on the web, glockstore.com, glockstore.com. It is the number one retailer in the world for Glock accessories. All right, here we go. The Morning Rundown for Monday, November 18th, 2024. Well, number one, Joe Biden. Is he trying to start World War III? This over the weekend. I mean, he's just trying to make it as difficult as possible. Over the next 62 days, 62 days, count them, until Donald Trump steps into the Oval Office again. Of course, he'll be inaugurated at noon on January 20th. It can't happen soon enough. Over the weekend, the purportedly Joe Biden from a rainforest in the Amazon, where there's having some stupid international conference, he stepped up and said, we're going to allow Ukraine to use our long-range missiles to attack Russia, escalating it at exactly the time that President-elect Trump has said, we want to de-escalate everything. And it's very dangerous and very stupid. I don't think it was Joe Biden who made that decision. Is he making any decisions except which flavor of ice cream to get, right? So anyway, that's going on. Very dangerous, and that could escalate. So we probably will see something from President Trump today on that, but we'll wait on that. Number two, more cabinet picks, and they're all pretty good. Doug Burgum, our buddy, is coming in at Secretary of Interior. Chris Wright, who is a big fracking guy, he loves fracking, Secretary of Energy, and then Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary. All good choices. But that leads us to number three. There is a battle going on internally about who's going to be the Secretary of Treasury. Is it going to be Scott Bessent, who's the hedge fund guy who we've had on this show several times and is backed by Steve Bannon, or is it going to be Howard Lutnick, the former Cantor Fitzgerald executive, who remember Cantor Fitzgerald? They lost 800 of their employees on 9/11. Cantor Fitzgerald, head Howard Lutnick, heads up the transition team. He apparently wants to be Secretary of Treasury. We'll see how that plays out. Look, it's President-elect Trump's pick. Whoever he picks, that's the guy. All right, or the woman, depending how it turns out. All right, number four. This is a Nashville-centric story, but it's sad. A big-time real estate developer, former mayoral candidate, Democrat donor, 73-year-old Bill Freeman, died last night. Multiple reports it was an apparent suicide, which has people scratching their heads. We're the only ones reporting that it was a suicide. The Nashville Scene is reporting that, but all the synoptic globalist local television stations are just saying he died without any explanation as to why. We'll talk about that a little bit, but it's a sad story. And, he was a very accomplished person. Apparently he'd had some health problems of late. So that's number four. We'll get into that a little bit later in this segment. Number five, the Ohio Senate pick. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jane Timken? Is it going to be somebody that you've never heard of? It's going to be Frank LaRose. Tom Zawistowski joins us in our second hour to talk about that. Number six, the Department of Government Efficiency is picking up steam. We'll hear a clip from Vivek Ramaswamy about that. Number seven, the Tennessee lawsuit that would prohibit genital mutilation of children under the claims that they're transgender. That lawsuit about that law goes to the Supreme Court in December. We'll hear from State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson on that. So there you go. There is the Morning Rundown for Monday, November 18th, 2024. It's brought to you by our friends at the Glock Store. You know, this is the time of year when we are all called upon to be thankful. And I, for one, I'm thankful for all of our sponsors. You know, we're not NPR. We don't get any taxpayer money. And so we've got to go out and, get advertisers so that I can express my opinions, which, I'm sure our listeners are interested in hearing, and I'm interested in telling. One of my favorite sponsors is the Glock Store. Lenny McGill moved his entire Glock Store operation from the left coast, San Diego, California, to Nashville in 2020. And they were listening to my radio program. And they said, hey, we like what you say. We want to sponsor you. And they've been our great sponsor ever since. So if you want to help, if you like this program, go to glockstore.com, and learn all about all the great accessories, Glock accessories and products. You can sign up for their interesting and informative sales letters at the very bottom of the website. You'll learn all about their great products and services they offer, and you'll help support the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. That's glockstore.com, glockstore.com, and thank you, Lenny McGill, for being a friend and a sponsor of the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Okay, so Donald Trump won a resounding victory as president, and all of the left-wing media was calling him Hitler. But things have changed. Fox News has a report about what Joe and Mika have done at Morning Joe. Here we go.
Interesting. Just a short time ago this morning, the hosts of MSNBC's Morning Joe program announced that they privately met face-to-face with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago on Friday. They said it was their first meeting with him in 7 years, and that while they disagree with him on a variety of topics, they agreed to reopen lines of communication.
Okay, so let's think about this. For 7 years, they've been, just calling him all terrible things. They've been calling him Hitler for like the past year. Apparently, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough decided it was time to meet with the person formerly known as Hitler. And here they were this morning talking about it on Morning Joe.
Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Okay, so Mika, the self-important Mika, who, by the way, because when I was on Morning Joe a long time ago, she shoots these ice crystals at you, from her eyes when she doesn't like you. I'm sure she was shooting ice crystals in that conversation. All right, we'll have more when we get back. 60 Minutes weighs in, and it's as bad as you could possibly think. Back after this, I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Good morning. It's Monday morning, and I'm a little feisty. And if you want to call in and join my feistiness, our number is 615-649-8477. 615-649-8477. Why am I feisty? Well, I'll tell you why. Because of the legacy media, which is basically going away, keeps doing the same bad things that they've done. They don't get it. And it is beyond irritating asterisk. It's not just irritating. It's irritating because they're doing the same kind of dishonest reporting that they've done for really the past decade, 2 decades or so. But they do not understand the impact of the landslide election of Donald Trump. Things are changing. They are no longer the power player they once were. And they are becoming caricatures of their bad selves. I'm going to give you this caricature. I just, I'm going to comment on it. It's Scott Pelley, who is, the former CBS anchor, one of the most sanctimonious on-air broadcasters you can ever listen to, if you barely can. I'm going to play this clip from 60 Minutes last night, where he basically engages in character assassination of many of Donald Trump's nominees to be cabinet members. Now, what they're thinking is, we're going to stop those cabinet members. And they're missing the whole point. Donald Trump was elected president, fair and square. Nobody denies that. In a landslide. And as president, he gets to pick. Now, the Senate can do advise and consent, but that's not what the Senate has been doing with Donald Trump. No, what they've been doing is obstructing intentionally. And some of the rhino senators are kind of in that ballpark. Okay, gotcha. But, we're going to do, here's the point, Scott Pelley. We're going to do recess appointments. And there's nothing you can do about it. So you can either play ball and give these nominees a fair hearing, or you can continue with your character assassination and smears in a unsuccessful attempt to try and stop the nominees. I can barely bear to listen to this guy, but just because it's a public service here and I want to illustrate the point, I'm going to play it. And I would like to hear from you. Our number 615-649-8477, 615-649-8477. Just remember that number. That's the number to call us. And we would like to hear from you. But okay, I'm warning you, this is going to make you cringe. This is make you going to want to yell at the radio, or if you're watching us on YouTube, yell at your computer. But here we go. Or your phone if you're watching on the phone or listening on the phone. The unbearable Scott Pelley criticizing Donald Trump's cabinet nominees. Here we go.
This past week, Republicans won the House majority and President-elect Trump made nominations to his cabinet. Some nominees appear to have no compelling qualifications other than loyalty to Trump. The nominees are Senator Marco Rubio for Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth to lead the 3 million people of the Department of Defense. He's a combat veteran, most recently a morning show host on Fox News with no government experience. Former Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, in charge of law enforcement. Gaetz has been investigated by Republicans for alleged drug use and sex with a minor. Gaetz denies those allegations. Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. She sought a pardon for Edward Snowden, who leaked U.S. secrets and now lives in Russia. And Robert Kennedy Jr. for Secretary of Health and Human Services, a skeptic of vaccinations. It's up to the new Republican majority in the Senate to decide whether these nominees are equipped to represent the American people.
Okay, so I can't bear it. It's up to the Senate to determine if these people are equipped to represent the American people. That's not what the Constitution says. And I want to use an expletive to describe this guy, Scott Pelley, but I'm not going to do it. I want to pay the $100 fine to the FCC. But, you know, the Constitution simply says advise and consent. Okay? Advise and consent. Now, that means if you don't get the 50, if you hold a vote, and if you don't get 50 votes, because remember, J.D. Vance will cast the deciding vote, then you don't get confirmed. Well, that's all a ploy. It's an old ploy to stop President Trump from getting the people he wants. And look, the world is moving rapidly. You got to move quickly. There's all sorts of problems. No compelling reason to nominate. Are you kidding me? Marco Rubio has been in the United States Senate, since 2010? That guy, he knows foreign policy. He's one of the most knowledgeable foreign policy guys. He knows a lot more about it than Hillary Clinton did or John Forbes Kerry. And they got nominated. And then this talk about Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, buddy, was a dramatically successful junior officer in combat tours, won 2 Bronze Stars. He's a Princeton Harvard grad. The guy is on top of his game. That's exactly what the Department of Defense needs. A junior officer who can take all of those brown-nosing high-level generals and kick them to the curb. Pelley. Then, okay, who else? You going after Matt Gaetz? Well, these unfounded, unconfirmed allegations you're throwing out there? Give me a break. This is yellow journalism at its worst. And William Randolph Hearst, your journalism is so bad, William Randolph Hearst would have fired you. And he was the inventor of yellow journalism. Then Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, the complaint against Tulsi Gabbard is she recommended a pardon for Edward Snowden. That's it. You know, unbearably ridiculous. That's my view on all this. And look, would you like some good news? Because I'm dying for some good news here. Here's the good news. Brendan Carr, over the weekend, Brendan Carr has been nominated to become the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. He's really been, on top of it. It'll be 3-2 Republicans. There'll be another Republican in there. And look, what has to happen right now is all of the lies that are being put out by ABC, CBS, NBC, and MSNBC, Mika and Joe, they need to be called into account. And I think what we need to do is really re-examine the broadcast licensing of CBS because they're so biased. They're clearly biased. And look, ABC has defamed President Trump. George Stephanopoulos falsely said he committed rape. No. Wrong. You know what's wrong? That's the definition of defamation. And then, so CNN, they still got Brian Stelter. You got all these terrible people. Would you like some good news on this? Because, I'm in the business of finding the good news. And by the way, let me just stop. What more good news can we have than the constitutional republic has been saved? That is like fantastic news. I mean, we're focusing on these little things here, these quibbles, and we'll fix the quibbles. But, I spent, and so many of our friends have spent in the Tea Party movement. I've spent 16 years of my life to get to this moment. I've been a small part of it. You've been a small part of it. But let's take the W here. Let's take the W. Donald Trump is the president-elect. Donald Trump will be president of the United States at noon when he's sworn in by John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, at noon on January 20th. And we're going to see all sorts of changes coming to the country. We're going to get rid of the deep state. Now, it's not going to be all that easy, but these are great things that are going to happen. And this has happened because of your efforts out there, of how you've done. You listeners have done it. But we got to land the plane. We got to stick the landing. That's the phrase. We got to stick the landing. What does stick the landing involve? It means calling out all of these knucklehead, dishonest mainstream media outlets at both the national level, CBS, ABC, NBC, and the local level. And the local level, it's mostly these large corporations that own all these local television stations and don't give you the full truth. We'll have an example of that when we come back. Tom Pappert, our lead reporter, joins us. I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. We'll be right back after this.
My fellow Americans, I have to tell you about my good friends at D.T. McCall & Sons. They have furniture and appliances and a lot more. They've been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years, and they're not going to rip you off. No hidden charges, no delivery charges, no charges for all of the crazy things. These are sick people at the lumber yards. These are very sick people. They charge you for cords and hoses and haul off. They charge you for all of these things. They call them hidden charges. It's the type of surprise that you don't want to see. It's like an October surprise, but it's worse. D.T. McCall & Sons, they're not going to do that. They're great people. They're going to give you a great deal. With locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, D.T. McCall & Sons will give you the deal of your life. Check them out today or go to dtmccalls.com.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. We are joined on our Zoom newsmaker line right now by our lead political reporter, Tom Pappert at the Tennessee Star and the Star News Network. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
Well, Tom, we're going to talk about something here that developed late last night, and it's not a happy story, but it's one we want to report, and it is a Tennessee-specific story with an asterisk. And the asterisk is, it is, I think, indicative of how lazy local television reporting has become. So the headline is that Nashville real estate developer Bill Freeman, he was 73 years old. He died last night, and it was a reported suicide. Now, he was a huge influence on Democratic policies here in Nashville. He ran for mayor in 2015, almost won, and he was a big-time Democrat donor, was a very successful real estate developer, and was considered, highly respected everywhere. His son, Bob Freeman, has taken over his real estate development empire. Bob is a state representative here in Nashville, and Bob's a good guy. He's a Democrat, but a good guy. His dad was a good guy. So last night, while you were probably watching the football game, you got a call from me. I said, Tom, we got to do a story. Sure, he said. What's the story? I said, well, and we have several sources that gave us. The sources that we had said that Bill Freeman, there were police officers at his house. There were reports that he'd committed suicide. Now, this is a stunning news for us. And tell us a little bit more about this and what you have discovered about this story.
Well, we quickly learned last night, or were told last night, that Freeman claimed his own life with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But what's been very interesting and almost a little bit disturbing about this is the inability of the local media to get the story right, especially when it's about somebody's life. As an example, one of the outlets had up for hours, and in fact, a couple hours ago this morning, it was still there, it may be there as we speak, that there was an active shooter situation happening at the Freeman home. And that to me could mean, well, my goodness, was he attacked? Was he murdered? Is the family okay? But we now know, because Metro Nashville Police Department told us, it is being investigated as a suicide, and the Nashville scene, which Freeman previously owned prior to his death, confirmed it was a suicide as well. So it seems as though the local media outlets, these local journalists who went to journalism school and got their degree, are just really dropping the ball here on a story that is tragic, but it's important you get tragic details right.
Yeah, and look, it's a sad story. Very sad. We have had reports that Bill Freeman was in ill health, that he suffered several strokes, and that it's sad. I mean, he's a very robust, very successful person with a huge legacy. Suicide is always a sad thing, very sad thing. But I note, for instance, that it's almost as if the real truth of this is something that none of the local television stations, news channel as we speak right now, and this was known, and it's been out there. Now I think you're the only one that got an actual statement from Metro Nashville Police Department confirming that this was being investigated as an apparent suicide. But this story's been out there for some time. I mean, since late last night. And the first reports from WKRN, which is owned by Nexstar, which owns The Hill and owns News Nation, and the News Channel 5, which is owned by Scripps. Both of these own like 100 television stations around the country, WSMV. They all simply reported the guy had died. Mayor Freddie O'Connell put out a tweet last night and simply said, "We're sorry for the passing of Bill Freeman." And we are sorry for his passing. Really good guy, very sad. But I think this is consistent with the way regime media outlets don't give you the full truth. But now that you have gone and obtained this information, and you got the confirmation from Metro Nashville Police that, in fact, it's being investigated as apparent suicide, I think now the other local news outlets are going to be forced to follow this story. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think so. And I think maybe part of what's keeping them from doing it so far is sort of the naivete where there is research, of course, showing that suicide can be a contagion. And if anybody out there needs help, please call one of the hotlines immediately or talk to a loved one. But maybe they think that putting this out there is irresponsible to their readers. But it's fundamentally irresponsible to not tell a complete story when you know it, especially these outlets. One of the ones you mentioned a moment ago that said there's an active shooter response from the police at the home of Freeman. This is how you get people more trauma. This is how you get people phone calls asking, "Oh my God, was your husband killed last night?" This is not how you handle a tragic story. And I think the editors at these outlets should be ashamed that they let their incomplete news articles sit online all night while the Tennessee Star, the plucky conservative outlet, got it right.
Well, just 13 minutes ago, News Channel 5 actually said the Nashville Scene, a publication Freeman owns, confirmed his cause of death as death by suicide, but they haven't caught up yet on and shared the information, as you did, from Metro Nashville Police Department, that they are investigating as apparent suicide. Again,
well, and credit to Don Aaron at the Metro Nashville Police Department Public Affairs Officer. He was responding from his cell phone. Clearly this morning on his commute into work, he thought, better let these folks know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So any outlet could have done this, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. But we've kind of forced the issue by getting the police to comment on it. And that's the way you do it as responsible journalists. Well, I do say, I know Bob Freeman. He's been a guest on the show. He's a good guy. He's a Democrat, which means he's mistaken on most policies, but he's a good guy. And it's a personal tragedy for him. It's a tragedy for his family. Motive here, apparently, he had been under, he had some very bad health and some strokes. And so we're just sorry for his passing. Anyways, so let's go on now to another Tennessee story, which again, we broke yesterday. You and I talked about it yesterday, that we were going to, as you know, this is another local Tennessee story, but as you know, we've been involved in trying to get the manifesto, the full 1,000-page manifesto of the Covenant Killer, the incident that took place in March of 2023. We've been in court, in both the federal court and the state court, to get all those documents. The state court has ruled against us at the trial level. We're appealing that. The briefs will be filed in December and January on that in the appeals court. The federal case, which we filed in May of 2023, the federal judge there, Alita Trauger, has been reviewing all of these documents, quote, in camera since, I think, April. A long time. No idea what she's going to do on it. And then we, of course, legally obtained about 90 pages of this from 2023 of the 1,000 pages. And after we had all of our legal representation squared away, we then went ahead and published those documents in September. You've written, I don't know, 50 stories on it based upon those. So our attorney in the federal case, Tom, we went and, as I told you here, we were going to ask him to communicate with the Department of Justice attorney representing the FBI, offer him a deal, right? New administration coming in, and we offered to cut our legal expense by 25%, and that we charge back to the government when we win the case, which we will win the case, by the way, if they just settle with us and release all the documents. Now, we sent that off. You did the story on it late yesterday after the show was over. We sent it, and we gave them a deadline of November 22nd. What do you think the Department of Justice is going to do when they respond? Are they going to respond to us, Tom? What do you think?
Well, I think the deadline was very wise because I think the closer we get to January 20th, the more likely reality will set in. So it's good you gave them a little bit of time to think about this. But in all honesty, I'm not optimistic, Michael. I don't think you're going to get a response. I think they're going to wait out the clock and keep running up that lawyer bill at the Department of Justice all the way until January 20th, when hopefully Attorney General Matt Gaetz gets in there, and this is just my personal hope, fires every single person who has kept that manifesto from going public.
There's no reason to keep it from being public. I mean, there's an ideological protection reason, right? And then also, we're going to get into this whole FBI memo claiming that it's a legacy token. What's that about? Remember? Tell our audience a little bit about the whole legacy token story.
Oh, yes. And this is why it's so vital that we get Matt Gaetz or somebody else in the DOJ, because it was the FBI, which is, of course, underneath the Department of Justice, who sent a memo to the Metro Nashville police in 2023, just after you sued them, Michael, that was basically saying never, ever give out a document written by a mass murderer. We call these legacy tokens, and there's precedent for their destruction, but you must never, ever release them. And so you could argue it's the federal government that is stepping on their toes of Nashville right now and keeping this from coming out. Unfortunately, they got their DEI judge in Nashville to okay that decision. But I fundamentally believe if the attorney general comes in and burns that memo and says, release this now, it will be released by both agencies.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is we're awaiting the appointment of an FBI director. Now, Christopher Wray hasn't resigned, but it's going to be clear. If he doesn't resign before January 20th, probably one of the first things Donald Trump does is he's going to fire him, right? Which he can do. And if I'm Christopher Wray, I'm lawyering up right now. But Kash Patel could be the new head of the FBI. I think the very first thing we do is we go to Kash and we say, Kash, could you please release everything from the FBI about this whole legacy token thing, right? And I think he'll say, yeah, if it's Kash.
I think so as well. I think virtually any Trump appointee would take these moves. And that's what I think they will understand, is that they're living on borrowed time here proverbially.
Absolutely. Hey, can you stick around, because there is electoral skullduggery going on by the Democrats in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, trying to steal a Senate seat. Stick around. Thanks, Tom.
Right.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, joined on our Zoom Newsmaker line right now by our lead political reporter, Tom Pappert. Tom, let's talk about a Pennsylvania story. As we speak, the Senate race looks like 53-47, basically, right? Republicans 53. They've moved from being behind 51-49. They're up 53-47. Asterisk. One Democrat, incumbent Bob Casey, has not conceded. And where are we? When was the election? November 5th, right? It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. They've sent in Mark Elias, their election law bulldog, to try and steal the race. And they focused on Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And tell us what the Democrat commissioner at Bucks County, Pennsylvania said about counting illegal votes.
So, Bucks County, I just want to quickly say, is called by Governor Josh Shapiro the swingiest swing county and the swingiest swing state in America. So this is a county that is
by the way,
vital.
let me just say, that's a weird way to describe it. Right? I mean,
I like repeating it because Shapiro is such an odd little guy. People need to know how he talks.
He is an odd little. Say that again for us.
The swingiest swing county in the swingiest swing state in America.
It sounds weird, but keep rolling. Okay, it's a suburb of Philadelphia.
So it is a swing county, and it's a very important one. In many ways, people thought it was going to determine the presidential election, and instead it might determine the U.S. Senate election. It won't sway the control of the Senate, but it will unseat a three-term Democrat who voted 99% with Kamala Harris. So it's a very important race. And the chair of the Bucks County Commission, Diane Ellis Marseglia, she said she would not support an effort to block ballots that were previously deemed by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court to be unfit for counting because of an incomplete, missing, or invalid date. She said she's not going to support a motion not to count them. Quote, "I'm not going to second that. Mostly because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want."
No, wait. Did she say that again? And did she really say that?
These are her exact words.
I've seen the video. I've seen her say it. Say it again.
Meeting.
Say it again.
Backing up. I'm not going to second that. Mostly because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country. And people violate laws anytime they want.
And so she's going to violate the law because what she's saying, Michael, is,
so if I violate the law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it. So she's challenging the court to come after her. It's unbelievable Democratic hubris.
I think, when Matt Gaetz becomes the Attorney General, I think he's going to pay attention to it. That sounds like a violation of election law. It sounds like a criminal felony offense for which you go to prison.
I see it in no other way. And by the way, Trump campaign chair Chris LaCivita said the same thing in a tweet early this morning.
He did?
These people are going to jail.
He's just reading my mind, obviously. I'm mind melding with Chris LaCivita. Okay, so Tom, I'm looking. They've counted these illegal votes, and now they've put it into the hopper. But he's still behind. Casey's still behind. It's as I'm looking at it right now, he's behind by 0.2% of a vote. 3,385,784 to 3,378,354. So it's about 17,000. Is there a recount going on there?
Oh, yes. Pennsylvania has a mandatory recount anytime a vote is separated by less than 0.5%. Now, the Democrat in the race, the losing candidate, Bob Casey, could have said, no, it's going to cost millions of dollars. It's going to be the same result. Let's not do this. But no, Bob Casey is going full into election denialism is what the Democrats would call him. And he is claiming he has a shot here.
He doesn't have a shot. I mean, we've got our buddies. I've talked to many high-level Republican attorneys who are up there. And they're saying, no, they've got no shot. And so, but when does the recount end? And when will we get those final results?
I believe, unless there are any delays, we should have the full results of the recount by the 24th. So I think that's this upcoming Monday. We're going to know, or maybe it's Friday. So this is not something that's going to take a long period of time, but it is going to cost the taxpayers of Pennsylvania about $1 million
So here's the one thing. Thank goodness Donald Trump won beyond the margin of fraud. Because what we're seeing here in Pennsylvania is the kind of, lawfare skullduggery that everybody was worried about for the entire country. Can you imagine? I think what Mark Elias is thinking, okay, they won beyond the margin of fraud, but I got to get one victory here, right? So that they'll worry about it in the future.
Well, he had to get paid, Michael. I mean, I don't mean to denigrate our friend Mark Elias, but he had an entire election integrity in the Democratic meaning of the term system set up prior to this election. He thought he was going to be getting rich off all of the lawfare. And instead, as you said, there was a commanding landslide electoral mandate for President-elect Donald Trump.
He thought
Mark Elias wouldn't have an income if it wasn't for this.
He thought he would have attorneys in 7 battleground states fighting at the presidential level. The only thing he's got going on is in Arizona, he's doing a little bit of defense for Ruben Gallego, who, by the way, has won the election there, fair and square. I'm sorry to say, just so you know, Kari Lake ended up losing. She's not conceded yet. She should, but she hasn't. And the margin there is, just too much to overcome. But so the only real race that's, in doubt or has not been, finalized is this in Pennsylvania. That's all. It's a Senate race. What he was thinking of is I'm going to have all these lawyers working on these 7 presidential and 6 or 7 Senate races. He's really only got 1 Senate race. So his income is like plummeting. And that's really what's driving it on Mark Elias. Final thoughts, Tom Pappert.
It's going to be a long 4 years for Mark Elias as he waits for another opportunity to grift off his legal expertise. And, I bet the good lawyers at Perkins Coie are excited that he left. They're probably looking back on that thinking, dang, we got lucky on that one.
All right, Tom Pappert. Hey, thanks for that outstanding report. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Anytime.
All right, we'll be back with more after this on Michael Patrick Leahy.